What follows may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
The world is full of stories. Stories of mysteries, of curiosities, of oddities. Join Kat and Jethro Gilligan-Toth for the strange, the bizarre, the unexpected, as they lift the lid and cautiously peer inside the box of oddities.
What are you doing, vocal exercises?
Now, the arsonist has unusually large feet.
Kat does vocal exercises before we do the show. No, it's nothing like that at all. I taped her when she wasn't paying attention. I'm going to play it for you.
What?
Right now.
No.
Yeah, here we go. This is the recording of Kat warming up.
Okay. 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 All right. Here we go. Okay.
Anyway, you must be ready by now.
You know what? What you just did is creepy, and I don't appreciate it.
That's okay. You're welcome. It's the Box of Oddities, and you can find us on the interwebbles at theboxofoddities.com.
The Webernets.
The Webernets, if you will. We also have the Sochmead that you can check out. We're on the Book of Faces. We're on the Gram of Instance.
That's right. The Tweeterots.
The Tweeterots.
The Twitterings.
So my dad calls it Tweeter.
The Tweeters.
The Tweeters. Yeah, the Tweeter.
I love it. I love it.
I've come up with some weird stuff this week. I think that it's going to horrify you.
I'm so pleased.
Yeah. And are you ready to go?
I think so.
I think I go first this week.
Okay.
All right.
No, I'm excited.
Okay. Some fruit is not good for you.
That's true.
Yeah. Especially the
Stone fruit.
stone fruit's not good.
I don't know.
No.
I genuinely don't even know what stone fruit is. I just pictured it being thrown at your head.
Getting one's noggin bashed in by delicious fruit is not a healthy activity. The fruit that I'm referring to is the pear of anguish.
No.
You know what that is.
I do know what that is.
But I'm taking this a whole step further. Oh, God. The pear of anguish is a medieval torture device. I'm going to talk about really horrifying torture methods from medieval times.
Oh my gosh, did you get some of this from that book that we got
Yes.
not long ago?
Yes.
Oh my God, this book is amazing.
What's the name of it? I can't remember. I was looking for it. I couldn't find it. Usually you keep it right on your bedside table.
Yeah, I think that's where it is. I got a lot there, though.
Yeah,
There's
that's true. We got to do our research for the show.
That's right. A little light reading before bed.
Yeah, medieval torture practices.
Have you ever heard of this? Oh my God.
The pear of anguish. Now, the pear of anguish is a pear-shaped instrument consisting of 4 leaves made of metal that slowly separate like a flower blooming with each turn as the torturer turns a screw at the head of the pear of anguish. Now, this would be inserted into the torturee in his mouth, his or her mouth, and they would crank it open until it would just, bust their jaw.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just grateful that it's the mouth.
Well, I was going to say, that's not the only place they put it. No. Yeah. At least that's the word. That's the rumor. The thing is, there's little or no evidence of it actually ever being used. That it was developed, it was invented, it was used to threaten people.
Oh, it was more of a fear tactic kind of thing?
Yeah.
Right. It works. That works.
They're in museums devoted to the subject of torture, but there is no written evidence of them ever being actually used. So, I don't know. This particular torture method is horrifying to me. The brazen bull.
I don't know what that means. I'm not familiar with that one.
It was invented in ancient Greece by a guy named Perillos or Perios. I don't know. It's a double L.
Let's call him Big P.
Big P. He lived in Athens. He proposed his idea of a more painful means of execution. What he did, he had this big brass bull statue made, and it was completely hollow on the inside. There was a door on the side of the brass bull, and they would take the victim, and this is according to Wikipedia, they would place him inside the brazen bull, and then they built a huge fire under it.
So they cook him.
Yeah, they slowly roast this person to death, and the metal would get so hot it would glow like it was alive. It would expand and contract. The device gradually became more sophisticated. The Greeks invented a complex system of tubes and pipes on the inside, so that as the victim was roasting alive and he was screaming, the sound would go through these filtered tubes and come out through the bull's mouth, and it would sound like the bull was roaring.
Oh my God, that's horrifying.
What an awful way to go. It also was made so that smoke would rise from it in clouds of incense. It was a really very horrible incense burner.
Most are. I'm just going to say it. Most are.
Now, technically, this was not used during the Middle Ages. It was more of an ancient Greek and Romans thing.
Sure.
Torture is torture, regardless of what historic period. The rack, of course, everybody knows what that is.
Yeah.
But how about the chair of torture? There are many variations of the chair of torture.
Sure. It sounds simple enough.
But they all have one thing in common. Spikes cover the back, the armrest, the seat, the leg rest, the footrest. And the number of spikes are between like 500 to 1,500 of them. The victim's wrists were tied to the chair. And in one version, two bars pushed the arms against the armrest of the spikes to penetrate the flesh even further. Other versions there were holes under the chair's bottom where the torturer would place hot coal. That was a big thing, I guess.
Sure.
And cause severe burns while the victim was still remaining conscious. This is the whole idea was to keep them conscious as long as possible.
Right.
So that they could,
Prolonged period of pain.
Yes. But again, this was not used a lot. Its primary strength was in the psychological fear that it caused.
Sure.
In people, and just, the few times that they saw it in action. Now, a diabolical version of that is called Danny's stool. Now, this is falsely attributed to the Spanish Inquisition. Mm-hmm. Danny's stool was a tall, thin stool with a big metal or wooden pyramid on the top of it. The victim would be stripped,
No.
bound with ropes,
No.
suspended above the device. They would then be lowered, usually very slowly, onto the device.
Oh, no.
So that the pyramid shape would enter
No.
whatever opening it could find.
Oh, jeez.
Yep.
Yep.
The amount of pain the device inflicted could be changed in several ways. The victim could be rocked back and forth.
Oh, jeez.
They could be dropped repeatedly on the device. One leg could be lifted, and olive oil could be spread all over the pyramid, and then brass weights hung on the victim's arms and legs. Yeah.
I mean, I get that you need ways to control people, and fear of horrible torture is a very effective way to do that. It's just, I wonder about the brains that come up with these specific things. Like, you know what we could do? Hey, jot this down. Okay, so make this giant spike thing, and we'll put it in their butts, and then we'll rock them about.
Yep. In fact, originally the name was Giant Spike Butt Rocking Device.
It's just like
Sometimes to prolong the torture, they would do that, and then they would suspend them above the device overnight and then continue in the morning.
Oh, sure.
After the torturer's coffee.
Right. And a nice breakfast.
The device was rarely, if ever, cleaned, according, once again, to Wikipedia.
Oh, that's gross.
If the victim didn't die from the actual device itself, they died from infection.
Oh, of course.
Just horrible.
Yeah. I mean, I hate it when I touch money and then I don't think about it and then I touch my face.
Well, you see how I open restroom doors.
Yes.
With my pinky finger. Now, the torture on Danny's stool could last from several hours to several days. The agonizing pain was just part of it. The humiliation was also a big part of it, too. Whenever the victim fainted from the pain, the person who was conducting the torture would lift the victim until the tortured person was awake again, and then they would commence the process.
Sure, that makes sense. Again, it's about prolonging the agony.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd be worrying about humiliation at all. I think at the point where you're having that kind of thing happen to you, I don't think humiliation would be a concern for me even a little bit.
No.
Nope.
No, it's not like getting a proctology exam. Well, it is kind of like getting a proctology exam, actually.
Yeah. Is a
lot like it.
proctology exam really humiliating, though? I mean, it's for your health.
It's
That's
not-
an important thing.
Yeah, it is. But whenever somebody says, a stranger says, okay, now put your elbows on the table
Sure.
and bend over, and he or she is putting on a rubber glove and covering it with some sort of a lubricant.
You know, you're going to get to buy a nice new pair of shoes tomorrow. Because you're making dollars the hard way. Up the butt. Nope. No, okay, that was too much with the song. Okay.
As you know, that was great. I loved it. A variation of this device was used where they would actually tip the victim upside down, kind of like on a teeter-totter, and they would tip him so his head was down. And then they would do the whole, pokey poke thing with Sharpie things. And the reason being is the blood would rush to their head and it would keep them conscious longer.
Oh, I see.
Now, the guillotine, everybody knows what the guillotine is. One of the things that I read recently about this, and this was kind of shocking to me, when it was done successfully, like on the first drop, boom, the head comes off, the head can stay conscious for 7 to 15 seconds.
What?
You don't just, you can just black out, but it is possible. The head can remain conscious and aware until, it bleeds out. Wow. 15 to or 7 to 15 seconds, something like that. And there was a case of some French monarch that was executed, and they claim that when they picked his head up, they called his name, and he opened his eyes and blinked his eyes and looked at him. Oh my God! Can you imagine? Like, I don't have a head. All I can see is this basket.
All of the things that you've talked about up until this, I have no interest in seeing.
But you would like to see that?
Just for science sake.
That's right, because you're investigative in nature. Now, we've all seen pictures of medieval tortures, public squares, hangings, floggings, beheadings, that sort of thing. Usually there's some sort of etchings that were made during the time. And one of those types of tortures was they'd put them on the wheel and they would suspend them upside down oftentimes. And sometimes they would cover them with honey so that flies would be attracted to them. And then ultimately they would lay their eggs and the maggots would, you get the idea. Essentially they'd be eaten alive by maggots.
Ew. Disco rice.
Yep. Nice callback.
Thanks.
To last week's episode of The Box of Oddities, available on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and Google Play. I don't know. But one of the things that they would do is they'd put them on this wheel, and if they really hated them, they'd suspend them upside down, and then they would beat them with like metal poles, iron poles, or wood mallets, that sort of thing. And there was a guy that they had, the executioner, he was specifically trained in how to use a wooden mallet to create the most pain.
Right.
And what they would do is they would smash one victim's leg, just pulverize it. And then they would take the leg and they would wrap it around the wheel. And then they
weave it in between
the spokes.
Of
like an ox cart wheel. And then they would do it to the arm. And they would wrap it around the spoke. And then they would do it, individually. They would just do it until the guy just died.
Yeah.
And then they would leave it in the square for weeks.
Yeah.
If you're going to kill somebody, at least clean up after yourself. You executioners.
You kids these days.
And being an executioner was actually, it was a weird thing back in those days because there was a certain amount of honor in it.
Yeah.
Social status. And at the same time, they didn't want anybody to know who they were. So that's why they wore the hoods.
The hoods.
And that sort of thing.
Sure.
But they were well respected in society.
Yeah, you had to be well qualified to be an executioner and trusted.
And good at what you do.
Yeah.
There were accounts where a not so good executioner kind of botched a beheading and they had to it took like 27 hacks to get the head off. And the crowd revolted and ran up on the gallows or whatever they call that platform that they were executing him on, and beat the guy to death and killed him with his own axe.
Whoa.
Like, hey, come on, this is getting ridiculous. Get on with it now. And yeah, so there was an element of danger to that as well.
I suppose so.
And then, of course, Vlad the Impaler and his pokey stick trick.
Right. It's a good one.
Yeah, you can look that up for yourself. But those are the ones that really kind of blew my mind. It's especially the Danny Stool one.
Yeah, there is that book. I wish I could remember what it was called, but it's not good for like pre-bedtime reading.
Which is where we both read it.
I know. We make bad choices.
We're lying in bed.
Snuggling.
I'm reading a book about medieval torture devices.
I'm currently reading The Stranger Beside Me by Anne Rule.
Yeah. So it's no wonder neither one of us sleep well. Anyway, just be glad that you don't live in the day of Danny's Stool. Let's move on to something a little less...
murdery?
That's a good way to put it.
Less murdery.
Life may be like a box of chocolates, but this is the Box of Oddities.
Time for that thing in the middle.
Here are 5 creepy-ass things children have said. There are so many. Number 5. My 3-year-old daughter holding her baby brother for the first time. So I shouldn't throw him in the fire?
Wow. Number 4. I was hiking alone in the woods with my son, who is 7. It was eerily quiet. Out of nowhere, he said, "The woods demand a sacrifice."
Number 3. I was on a bus recently, stopped outside a walk-in clinic. A little girl in the seat in front of me turned to her dad and said, "Death is the poor man's doctor." What?
Let me off at the next stop, please. My child, when he was very young, had night terrors. He would wake up screaming. I said to him one time, "What is wrong?" He said, quote, "I'm dead because I got hit by a car. I was walking to the factory with my sister. The car hit me. It was dusty. I was dead on the dusty road. I miss my sister."
Oh. And number 1, I was tucking in my 2-year-old. He said, "Goodbye, Dad." I said, "No, we say goodnight." He said, "I know, but this time it's goodbye." Kids.
Kids, what are you going to do? Oh, wacky kids and their nightmares.
Keep them in the barn.
The Box of Oddities with Kat and Jethro Gilligan Toth.
All right.
What do you got for me this week?
Stonehenge.
Stonehenge.
Have you seen the recent news about Stonehenge?
No, what?
Okay, so here we go.
Oh, this is going to be great.
There is...
Because it's going to be about aliens.
So, Stonehenge. If you're not familiar, Stonehenge is a prehistoric monument in England. It consists of a ring of standing stones.
Sure.
With each standing stone around 13 feet high, 7 feet wide, and weighing about 25 tons. It is one of the most famous landmarks in the UK, and some would say in the world. And in 1986, it was added to the UNESCO list of World Heritage Sites. So lots of theories about Stonehenge, why it exists, how it came to be, what the circumstances surrounding its origin are. Archaeologists in 2008 claimed that there was evidence to suggest that Stonehenge had healing properties. The scientists claimed that the ancient chipping of the rocks was the equivalent of the Lourdes, a French commune that allegedly possessed healing powers. Anthony Perks, who's a researcher at the University of British Columbia, claimed in 2003 that, in fact, the ancient site was a sex symbol, which could have been constructed to look like the female sexual organs. I would argue it looks more like the male sexual organs, but hey.
Unless you view it from above.
I suppose that's true. No, still, there's something horribly wrong with that female sexual organ, if that's what that looks like. You should get that checked. The University College London also came up with a strange theory in 2012. They thought that Stonehenge was a team-building exercise, that it was just something that the town
really
pulled people together to help build. Just as a fun Sunday park kind of event.
You see like the ancient druids going into like a little corner market with these photocopied things with a little phone number slips on the bottom of it. Can I hang this up on your bulletin board? We've got a monolith raising this weekend.
Next, trust falls.
Yes. Yeah. That's next.
It's a team building exercise. That's what people, and then the parachutes, you get the big,
Sure.
and then anyway. In the 1968 book, Chariots of the Gods, the author claimed that the technologies as well as the religions of ancient civilizations had been given to them by extraterrestrial beings.
That's Eric von Daniken.
I,
Yeah. And he hypothesizes that was the case. Could it be?
Could it be? So, yeah, there are a lot of things that people have
Hypothesized. What's the latest, though? I'm dying to hear.
One of the biggest mysteries surrounding Stonehenge may be finally solved. So the pillars, the stones that are standing are supposedly from Marlborough Downs, which is about 20 miles away from where Stonehenge stands at Salisbury Plain. Archaeologist Mike Pitts recently published his findings regarding the origin of Stonehenge in the Journal of British Archaeology. By the way, I got most of this from Forbes magazine. After extensive archaeological research, Mr. Pitts believes he's found the answer. 2 of the largest stones within Stonehenge appear to have been in place for millions of years, long before humans arrived to have created Stonehenge or anything else for that matter. The largest stone, the heel stone, weighs 60 tons and is uniquely not shaped or dressed like many of the other stones, meaning it wasn't chiseled, it wasn't.
This is a natural.
It's in its natural shape.
Like glaciers left it there or something?
Exactly.
Okay.
In addition, while excavating around the heel stone, Mr. Pitts found evidence for a relic hole that would have been big enough for the heel stone. So the idea is that that hole is where that stone was, and they just...
Oh, they raised it up.
They just raised it up. Oh, I just copied that same part twice. During further excavation, he found evidence for another filled-in hole nearby, which is the same shape and size as another one of the stones.
So they did that a couple of times.
Exactly. So if these 2 massive, unshaped, undressed stones were originated in place at Salisbury Plain, what prompted people to erect these stones and drag over a dozen other stones 20 miles to Salisbury Plain? And it appears that the answer lies in the initial orientation of those 2 stones. So you're picturing this stone here and this stone here. It appears that aligned with sunrise during the summer solstice and sunset during the winter solstice, these stones line up perfectly.
Okay. And they were just there by accident.
Exactly.
Wow.
The I don't know how to pronounce this word. Tertiary. Tertiary. Yes. Too many T's. The tertiary age stones are as a result of repeated frost wedging during the warm and cold periods in Earth history. The story begins to fall into place that the 2 massive sandstone boulders existed in place for millions of years. And the unique presence of the 2 boulders and their orientation with the sunrise and sunset appear to have been the significance behind the Stonehenge location. These stones were just there naturally. And because of how they lined up with the summer solstice and such, they wanted to build this special place. For what purpose? You know, we're still a little unsure. There are those that believe that it's just a cemetery for well-known families. That's how Stonehenge was birthed.
Okay.
Basically. And then, you know, how the other stones got where they are and the moving of them, the amazing weight that they must have been, and how 20 miles and the rolling of the things and the pulling and all that, still a mystery. But why they were placed the way that they were, at least is somewhat solved, because those stones have been there for millions of years. It's amazing.
Saw a documentary recently about how sound may have played a part in the construction of Stonehenge. That if you beat drums in there, they echo off the stones in a certain way that can create almost a hallucinogenic experience for people.
What?
Like a shamanistic type of experience, and that it was used by ancient druids or whoever during meditation periods, that they would do this and it would help them get into a trance-like state.
Sure, that totally makes sense.
My question is, why is it that where Stonehenge is located is also the number one hotspot for crop circles? I think that's fascinating. Why is that?
Well, probably because weirdos are attracted to Stonehenge.
Oh, you think that the people who, quote, fake the crop circles are drawn to the area because Stonehenge is there?
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Ancient alien theorists say no.
I just, when I see news coming up about Stonehenge, it's very exciting because it's something that has been so many questions surround it and have for so long. And when you look at how small our lives are compared to how long this has been a thing, and you're just, I don't know, it just seems so much bigger than all of us. And
well, Stonehenge is just one, it is the major monolith, obviously, in that area. But there are many more.
Sure.
And what they have found is that they're all on a particular magnetic line. And one theory is that some of these areas, churches were built, or cathedrals were built there, places of worship,
Sure.
and then were destroyed, and then other ones were built on top of along this magnetic line. One of the theories is that they are portals to other dimensions.
yeah, I thought that you might bring that up.
Is that all you have to say? Just
Yep, no, I
that's
just
it?
assumed
That's
that
it?
you would bring that up
Okay.
because, well, you know. No, I think all of the theories are interesting. Some more likely than others, but interesting nonetheless.
A friend of mine said he had a. Do you remember when the 2012 Mayan calendar thing was all popular and stuff?
For sure.
A friend of mine said he had a theory as to why the Mayan calendar ended on December, whatever it was, 21st, 2012.
Right.
Is because the Mayans ran out of sharp chisels.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Totally makes sense.
He probably stole that line from somebody. So if it's not his, I'd like to give you credit. I just don't know who said it.
It's, that's like my daily calendar is filled out only through like February, but that's because
The world
February
ended.
was the end of the world, but because that's when I lost interest in keeping a daily calendar.
So the Mayans, they just lost interest. That's what happened then. That's fascinating, and I'd like to learn more about that. And
I know that you would.
mostly the part about alternative universes,
Right,
and
and the
portals
aliens
to
and-
yeah,
yeah.
that sort of thing. Any hoozle, that's the Box of Oddities. TheBoxOfOddities.com is our website.
You can email us with suggestions or with your Stonehenge theory.
Yeah,
Curator at theboxofoddities.com.
we're Kat and Jethro Gilligan Toth. We have been for quite some time, and we'll see you next time.
Keep flying that freak flag.
Fly it proudly.
And so, let it be known that the Box of Oddities belongs to you, and its fate is in your hands. Therefore, it's been requested by those I report to beseech you for assistance. The Box of Oddities is free. We ask but one thing of you: to provide a 5-star rating and a positive review. True, that is 2 things. However, 'tis merely a 5-star rating and a positive review. Also, subscribe to us. Okay, so 3 things is all we ask. 3 things and 3 things only. Henceforth, the Box of Oddities commits to the telling of stories. Stories of the strange, the bizarre, the unexpected. We wish to offer our deeply felt gratitude and appreciation for your patronage. TheBoxOfOddities.com. On Facebook at facebook.com/Box of Oddities Podcast. On Twitter at Box of Oddities. And Instagram at Box of Oddities Podcast. Copyright 2018. All rights reserved.